There are just 5 days left to finish your taxes, everybody. The deadline is Monday, May 17th. Now, if you haven't filed yet, there are still some things to consider. And joining us now with some of the last-minute advice is Rick Bloom, president of Bloom Advisors in Farmington Hills. Thank you so much for joining us again, Rick.
Thanks for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
Well, you know what? People who have waited to this far, there are a lot of reasons because taxes seem a little more confusing this year because of everything we've had to consider from, stimulus to unemployment benefits. So what should people do if they haven't filed their tax returns just yet? What's the first thing to think about?
The important thing to remember is that you can file for an automatic extension until October 15th. It's an extension of time to file your return, not to pay your taxes. So if you owe money, you can make an estimate with your extension, but don't file a sloppy return. If you make mistakes on your return, it increases IRS scrutiny, and no one wants that. So that's number one.
And it's important to note that that estimate of what you owe, you have to pay on Monday.
You do. You do have to pay that with your extension. It's a form 4897. But the nice thing is the extension's automatic. The IRS has to give it to you till October 15th. So it's a really nice thing to take advantage of if you can't get your return done. And so people shouldn't rush.
Very good advice there. A year ago, we were dealing with 20 million plus people unemployed. Being short on finances has been a big problem with this crisis. So what if someone really can't afford to pay what they owe?
Well, I always tell those people you should file your return even if you owe money. The IRS is very good at working out payment plans, but also when you talk about penalties, the IRS has all sorts of penalties they can hit you with, including not filing your return. So the fact that you file your return lets the IRS know that you're legitimate, and it makes it easier dealing with other types of penalties. So I always tell people, file your return, no matter what.
So if you do need a payment plan, how do you go about doing that if you've never done it before?
Well, the IRS will contact you. They'll contact you about a payment plan. There's all sorts of different ways that you can set up a payment plan with the IRS. So I would tell you to file your return, wait till you hear from the IRS.
And they will not call you or text you. They usually initiate that communication via what? Mail?
They 100% by mail. And that it's so important that you mention that. There's so many scam artists out there that call people, particularly seniors, say that the IRS, hang up. The IRS will contact you by mail, period.
Quickly, there's a new deduction when it comes to charities. Tell us about that.
There is. Most people take the standard deduction. They don't itemize their deduction. But for this year, they can deduct $300 of charitable contributions, like cash contributions they made to a charity or to their church, even if they don't itemize their deductions. And I also say one other deduction that'll affect a lot of people is the first $10,200 of unemployment benefits is not taxable. Now, the forms don't show that because the forms were done last year. And this law change was done this year. So it's important people recognize that.
Sure.
If you had unemployment last year, the first $10,200 is not taxed.
The first $10,200 is not taxable. So if people already reported that, if they've already filed, they'll get a reimbursement soon.
Right. The IRS said they'll eventually send people their money back.
Excellent. We're about out of time. If people have more questions and want to reach out to you or get some answers, where can they go?
Bloom Advisors, bloomadvisors.com. And I'll just say one last thing. It's not too late to make a 2020 IRA contribution.
Not too late. You can still do it.
Up until Monday, you can still do it and have it written off your 2020 taxes.
Good to point that out. Rick Bloom, thank you so much, president of Bloom Advisors. We do appreciate your insight today.
Thanks so much for having me.